Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show, everybody. Obviously, a lot of football has happened and a lot of breaking news has happened this week. So, we will discuss all of that on today's show. Plus, we also have a very special guest joining us, a former UNLV player, a guy from Las Vegas who is going to join us. Plus, he is a former teammate of Eddie George and the late Steve McNair. Ray Cheetany is going to join us. Plus, we're going to talk about all of the big matchups from this past weekend. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, and forget all about the politics and watch the Stingray Show as we get everybody up to date on all of the latest college football news only on the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you!
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding me? My God almighty. What an epic way for the Tennessee-Georgia rivalry to end this game. What a play. Wow.
Welcome inside another exciting edition of the Stingray Show. I am your host, Stephen Ray, and I hope everybody's doing quite well on this Thursday. We're doing a special edition of the Stingray Show today because we were not able to do a full show this past on Tuesday. We did a short segment with head coach Hugh Freeze, but we're doing a real show today to kind of preview what happened last week, and then tomorrow we're going to have another full show with two very special guests, so stay tuned for that. But today we're going to talk about the Pac-12 and a lot of what's going on with the SEC. So let me go ahead and get everybody started and go ahead and bring up my co-host Heath. Heath, how's it going, my friend?
Steven, it's going wonderful. How are you this Thursday?
I'm doing good, and a beautiful weather outside, no weather issues to talk about. So let's go on ahead now and talk about some of the big matchups from this past weekend. And before we get to that, I do need to also mention that the Alabama LSU game, the A&M Tennessee game, and the Georgia Missouri game have all been postponed because one or more teams have COVID. I think LSU and A&M both have COVID issues. There's also a report out there that Alabama has a few COVID issues. Also, I need to mention a team close to you, Mississippi State, your alma mater. They also canceled with Auburn because of the COVID situation down there with Coach Leach and Mississippi State. So unfortunately, the COVID bug is now getting the SEC. We've already seen it affect.
The real news with Mississippi State and Auburn is Mississippi State doesn't have enough linemen due to injury. So it's not necessarily COVID with Mississippi State and Auburn. The SEC bare minimum requirement for offensive linemen, I believe, is 7. I think Mississippi State is down to 5. So that's why that game got canceled. There are some COVID, or there's rumored to be COVID positive tests, but it's more of injuries right now with State and Auburn. But the other schools, yes, lots of COVID issues and problems, and it's 2020. That's what it is.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And, the SEC is starting to get the COVID issue as well. It's attacked the Conference USA. They've had a couple of games missed. The Big Ten, the Big Ten, I saw yesterday afternoon that the Maryland-Ohio State game was postponed as well.
Yep. It's just a situation. There was a rumor that LSU, the reason that the COVID outbreak happened with LSU was due to a Halloween party.
Yes.
I don't know if that's the case or not.
Right.
I didn't research that nor looked in to see to verify it as fact or not. But I do think it's interesting that this week we're seeing a little bit of a spike. So, but with that being said, Stephen, I would like to say I do this every day, but I don't. I hope that everybody else does it better than me, but let's pray for our country. Let's pray for these schools. Let's pray for our country. No, we're not making this political. No, we'll never make it political. But with that being said, I think most of our viewers, along with me, are tired of talking about COVID. Let's talk football.
Yes, and we actually have some breaking news as of yesterday. Our good friend, Liberty head coach Hugh Freeze, did sign a lucrative extension with the Liberty Flames. Now, I did not read into what all is in that deal, but he did sign a brand new deal through, I think it was 2026 with the Liberty Flames. So congratulations to him for that.
It's all because of this show. We put him over the top. Or maybe not. Well, the one thing I would love to see about Coach Freeze's contract, and I doubt we'll get I doubt the university will release this, is
right.
I would love to see the schools that he has buyout clauses with.
Right.
And I'd like to see how many of those are SEC schools. If this was a normal year, I believe 2020 would be the Hugh Freeze sweepstakes. What school is going to hire him next? So next year, we've talked to Tony Barnhart about it. We've talked to Peter Burns about it. We talked to Brandon Marcello about it. We've talked to a lot of people about it here on the show about, is there anyone going to be fired this year? And everyone keeps giving us the same exact answer. No, they're not getting fired. Dan Wolken even said the same thing last week when he was on the show.
Right.
With that being said, 2021, there could be changes at South Carolina, changes at Tennessee. I think Lane Kiffin might get a job promotion somewhere after next season, so Ole Miss could come back open. I don't see Hugh Freeze going back to Oxford, but things have happened. There's going to be a lot of jobs. Eddie O could be out at LSU if they put up another season like they have again this year. Is Gus still at Auburn? I know Auburn fans are upset with Gus. There's a lot of things. Does Georgia even open up?
I know. I was about to ask you that.
Yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on. And heaven forbid, if a coach here in the SEC decides to, jump ship and take a NFL job or a Michigan job or something, I don't see that happening. But, there's so many things. We only talk about the negative of coaches getting fired. But, I would love to see someone like Vanderbilt bringing an offensive mind. I don't think Hugh Freeze would take that Vanderbilt job, but I would love to see, James Franklin made Vanderbilt so much fun to watch, and Vanderbilt's just kind of blah.
Yeah.
And I'm not hating on Vanderbilt because I actually kind of pull for Vanderbilt. I think we all kind of pull for Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
We all get tickled and cheer on Vandy when they get a win, and I'm one of those people. But there's so much going on right now in the SEC, and sadly, I don't think we're going to see the coaching carousel get started here in 2020.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and start talking about some of the matchups from this past weekend, and we will start with a Friday night game that happened about a week ago now. Were you able to watch any of the Friday night games?
Yeah, I watched a few of them. I don't remember. Gosh. It seems like 2 weeks ago was Friday.
I know.
It's been a crazy week, Stephen.
I know. Miami defeated North Carolina State 44-41. North Carolina State was actually up in this football game by 10 in the fourth quarter and then lost it to Miami. And let me go in and pop this up and let you see this, Heath. This was the first time Miami has won a game coming off of a bye since September of 2017. And that is really shocking with how dominant the U has been over the years. That's an interesting little stat right there.
It's a very interesting little stat. You know, we've talked about Manny Diaz on the show before. I'm a huge fan of Diaz. You know, I've just heard multiple high school coaches be so impressed with Manny when he came by to recruit certain students at that school or just come by to introduce himself.
Right.
Manny Diaz, he's not a coach that's going to come in and turn things around right off the bat. What he is going to do is he's going to slowly change the culture and turn things around.
Yes.
Is he ever going to get Miami to national prominence? I don't know.
We don't know. I mean, time will tell.
But I will say this, you know, South Florida has some of the best college football players on the planet.
Yeah.
And a lot to choose from. And Manny's a dynamic recruiter.
Yes.
So, you know, I think Manny's just maybe a offensive coordinator higher away from making big things, or he's got his OC that he wants, and they're going to make some things happen. I mean, they did put up 40-plus points the other night. NC State, man, you know, I've always kind of liked the Wolfpack, but NC State, they just never can seem to get over the hump.
I know.
Well, every time they show promise, they shoot themselves in the foot somehow. You know, I like the Pack, but I just want to know why they're snake bit sometimes.
Right. And you know, everybody's talking about the ACC championship game, a rematch between Notre Dame and Clemson. Hey, Miami's sitting there silently with only one loss to Clemson. Who knows? They can actually jump up and actually surprise somebody and actually get back on track to get into the ACC title game. So don't sleep on Miami just yet.
No, I think it'll take a little bit of a miracle for Miami.
Yes.
But yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing an ACC cancellation game. What I mean by cancellation is Notre Dame beats Clemson, then Clemson beats Notre Dame, and then there'll be a big fuss of what and who. And well, Trevor Lawrence wasn't there for the first one, but heaven forbid if Notre Dame wins that second time around. Will Dabo Love be over?
Right. Hey, Miami, unfortunately for all of the fans out there, they do not travel to South Bend, and Notre Dame does not come down there this year. Dadgummit.
Yeah.
That would be so awesome to see the rivalry be joined again, an undefeated Notre Dame versus a one-loss Miami.
Yeah, that would be fun. Nothing's ever going to top, what was it, the 1987 game?
Yes, I think they did
maybe it was 88.
Wasn't that one the Catholics versus convicts game?
Yeah, it was.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. That was. I don't know if you watched the 30 for 30 on that.
I didn't.
It was talking about the guys that made up the T-shirts and everything, and oh man, that's a fun. There's a great Lou Holtz story in there. Before they took the field, Lou Holtz told them to beat them down, beat them in the ground, and right before they walked out the door, he turned around and told his team, he goes, "Leave Jimmy Johnson for me," which I always thought was funny because Lou Holtz is like big as a toothpick, you know. So it'd been funny to see Wiry Lou go toe-to-toe with Jimmy Johnson. So,
well, man, let's move on and talk about another team, and I actually believe that this team is a dynamite football team. I'm going to not put up the graphic here just yet, but man, did you see what BYU did to Boise on the Blue? They actually owned that game and actually took Boise to the woodshed up there, winning 51-17. And I honestly believe that BYU is one of those sleeper teams, I think, to make their way into the 14 playoff.
Stephen, don't make any ifs, ands, or buts about it. BYU may be the very best team west of the Mississippi.
Yes.
They are a for-real team. They are. I like BYU. I like how their schedule's set up.
Yeah.
You know, much like Notre Dame, they're an independent, but
Right.
Notre Dame playing in the ACC this year. We've seen BYU get left out of the playoff picture before. We've seen that in the early 2000s, back during the BCS days.
Yes.
Roy Kramer and his BCS dream machine there. But BYU is very legit. If BYU wins out, I cannot see how the playoff committee cannot heavily consider BYU, especially if Clemson and Notre Dame both have one loss, as we just talked about. So I would really like to see BYU, someone kind of get a shot that's outside the Power Five.
Right.
I would like to see someone get into that conversation and make that happen.
As a storied program as BYU is, are you ready for this?
Hit me.
That was their first win in history at Boise State.
Wow.
Now that is a interesting little nugget there, and they are 8-0 for only the third time in school history.
Wow. I guess the other two times would have been 84, and they're in the early 2000s. What was that, 01, 02 when they were?
Yes, 2000, I think.
2000, there you go. So
and that was the year that they rolled in, or they actually Mississippi State fans will not like this, but you remember the holding call, the phantom holding call in Starkville that allowed BYU to go ahead and win that game? Mississippi State fans will take it to their grave because they just knew they had them beat.
It was you're making some blood pressure go up with a lot of folks too.
Yeah.
BYU, talented program, a very proud program. I'd like that BYU has always kind of done things on the up and up as far as their recruiting, and a lot of people don't like the waiver and things that the students have to sign, the contract of purity and no drugs and this and that and everything else. But they know it on the front end. It's not like they surprise them with it.
Right.
They let them know on the front end. So, BYU, it's different. I want to call them unique. I want to call them different. People don't like different.
Right.
BYU's different. But at the same time, you don't hear about BYU recruiting scandals. You don't hear about their coaches doing under-the-table things. And heaven forbid if a player ever does something out of the ordinary at BYU, it makes national news because everyone is so critical on BYU. But just keeping it straight to football, I like the Cougars this year to make some noise. I think there's some teams ranked in front of them that are going to slip and fall. We know that if Alabama beats Florida, there's a spot to move up. If Clemson beats Notre Dame, there's another spot to move up, if not two. So an undefeated BYU team could cause lots of problems.
Yes, and man, I got to be honest with you. Are you ready to talk about the elephant in the room right now? And honestly, I think this was the biggest storyline this past weekend in college football. Let me just go ahead and roll the highlights.
There it is.
Indiana knocked off Michigan 38-21.
Mr. Khaki Pants.
Man, I'm telling you, and we talked yesterday with a guy who we're actually going to preview here a little bit later on about the Michigan job, and he actually called the game, and he said that they are definitely have issues there up there in Ann Arbor. And man, who would have thought coming into this year that Penn State would be winless, Nebraska would be winless, and Indiana would be sitting there at 3-0.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, man.
Yeah. It's crazy. If I'm pulling for any team, like I do every year, there's some team that kind of pops up. It's kind of an underdog on the national level. I'm pulling for the Hoosiers, man. I'm pulling for the Hoosiers all the way. I would love to see Indiana make a huge run. I'm not putting any stock in it. If I had to put my money where my mouth is, no, I'm not putting $1 on the Hoosiers. Yeah. I'm not doing it. But I will pull for them and cheer them on. When's the last time? It was 1967. Is that what? No, that was
No. That was the second time that they beat Michigan since 1967, and the first since 1988.
Jeez Louise, man! Think about. I want to know when's the last time Indiana's been undefeated this far into the season.
Right.
We'll have to bring that stat up for next week. But yeah, Hoosiers all the way. I'm pulling for Indiana.
Right.
It would just be great to see. That would be a typical 2020 story. Wouldn't it? Indiana, Big Ten champs. I mean, that would just be the most random thing. So,
and by the way, Michigan got beat by Indiana, and last week got beat by Michigan State, who lost this past weekend 49-7 to Iowa.
Iowa's got problems off the field right now with lawsuits and players claiming this and that. And I don't know if it's true, and we're not going to get into that.
Right.
Michigan State's got problems off the field. We're not going to get into that either. Michigan's got problems on and off the field. We're not going to get into that either.
Right.
There's a lot of drama going on in the Big Ten right now.
Hey, I'm going to pull you up full screen real quick. I'll be right back in like 30 seconds.
All right. Tyler, I see your comment about 9-1 A&M and BYU. I would love to tell you the answer. I would think that a 9-1 A&M team would get in over BYU just because of the strength of the SEC schedule. Florida, it looks like Florida's going to win out and make the SEC championship. That looks like it can and will happen. That would only make A&M's case a little bit stronger of making the playoff, beating a Florida team that won the Eastern Division. So who knows what's going to happen, but this is 2020. No one knows, and I don't understand. John, I see your comment. Thank you for 2001, and you are correct. That is the Twin Tower game. That game was supposed to be played, and 9/11 canceled that game out, and that was a game that was pushed back into December for Mississippi State that year. So, Bama Jr., I see you down there. Khaki Pants is in trouble. Absolutely. We just talked about that. And I don't know what to tell you about the 2020 schedule so far with the SEC. If any more games get canceled out, are they going to keep pushing back the SEC championship? I think we're getting to the point now where we're going to have to cancel some games time to time. I hope that's not the case, but I am looking forward to seeing what's going to happen here this season. It's crazy to think that all SEC teams have 2 regular season December games. This might turn out to be something that college football fans enjoy. I wouldn't mind starting the college football season back a little bit and playing into December. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think conference championships between maybe right before Christmas or just after Christmas would be a great idea. Right now, that looks like the plan for the SEC championship. I believe it's going to be December 26th, where they're looking at playing that game there in Atlanta. And, I think it is going to be Florida and Alabama.
I'm back now, so everything's good on my end. And are you ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right. Next up is going to be it was a really tight game, and this was a heartbreaking loss for the Arizona State Wildcats. Did you happen to watch any of the USC-Arizona State game from this past Saturday?
I watched a couple of plays, and I watched the highlights. I watched mostly the highlights from that game. Not anything super shocking to me stood out in that game, Stephen. It was just it's the Pac. There's some things that we expect from the Pac, right?
Yes. Now, I will say this, though. The reason that this was interesting was because Arizona State actually had a 13-point lead with 3 minutes to go, and USC stormed back and scored 13 points in under 3 minutes to win 28-27.
I haven't asked you this, Stephen, and like I said, I didn't get to watch the whole game. I just watched the highlights there. But that crazy 4th and 13 play, that's just crazy.
Yep.
But did the conference officials protect USC in this game?
No, they got actually right there. They got an onside kick and then went back and scored again on 4th and 9. So, It was a heartbreak for Arizona State, but you played well. Let's move on. It has to be that way, or that could derail your entire season, having a lead like that and then just blowing it.
Yeah. Crazy game. Why is it that it just seems to be so many crazy games out west?
Yes.
The WAC always has crazy games with the Pac. The Pac there's always a score in the Pac where you're like, how did that happen? There'd be a top 10 in the Pac, and they would play a winless or a losing, team from out west, and they would lose big and bad. I mean, I believe Washington, past couple of years when Sarkisian was there, they would always have terrible, terrible losses. We're number 3 in the country. We're the best chance for a national championship. And then they would lose by like 20 something points at home to, a random, Washington State team or somebody. It was always something like that.
Well, let's move on to one of the big games in the Big 12 that was once again impacted by an official's call. And I see you laughing there, man. We talked about it off the air, and this was a BS no call, to put it quietly. As you can see there, it's 10-10. And let me just go ahead and read you this stat off of my phone. Give me just a second here to pull this up. Because this is astounding to me. Heath, you can take over just for a second. I'll pull this up.
Well, that's clearly pass interference. We clearly see it. We clearly know it. Neil Brown losing his mind. That'll turn some hair gray, if not fall out for him. That's just crazy. You can see he's clearly all over him.
Yes.
And Stephen, I'm not disagreeing with you. I do think some conferences, they do what's right for business. I disagree with that statement. I think your chain is only strong as your weakest link, and if you're making an imposter champion or an imposter team, it's only setting up for embarrassment while you're hurting teams in your own league and making them weaker. And I don't understand that.
Right.
So with that being said, West Virginia. I didn't think I'd ever see the day where I'd have sympathy for West Virginia fans, but yeah, burn a couch with a tear in your eye. I agree with you, West Virginia fans.
You see right there, I put the stats for Sam Ehlinger.
Mm-hmm.
Seals, the quarterback for Vanderbilt, had a better outing on Saturday than Sam Ehlinger. Seals passed for like almost 350 yards. Mm-hmm. Sam Ehlinger had only a meager 184. I'm telling you, man, Ehlinger is extremely overrated in my opinion.
I don't want to call him overrated, but I'm going to say he's not clicking on all cylinders yet.
Right. And he's a senior, by the way.
Yeah. I don't know if it's 2020. I don't know if it's the lack of a spring practice. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But I know he's not performing at a high level. I know that.
Well, let me just go ahead and roll this for you because we've actually, we already talked about it. You talked about it, but I did not. This is the pass interference in question here. As you can see, he is all over him. That is a crucial play in the game that would have ultimately given West Virginia the lead there. Now, I have actually zoomed in on this play. As you can see right there, there's the replay. He is basically all over the guy.
Again. Watch. I mean, he's like monkey bars, man. It's like a jungle gym. I mean, he's all over him.
And Neil Brown, obviously, you have every right to be upset with that call.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is all over him. I know Bama fans don't ever want to hear this, but Bama fans are so protected by officials over and over and over. And if you ever try to deny it, you just lose all credibility, and you should be laughed in the face. But it's absolutely astonishing. But we know look at Texas. Texas has ruined two conferences. they ruined the Southwest Conference, and it's gone. That was a wonderful conference, and that conference was booming when it got imploded, all because of Texas greed. Yes, the Longhorns' greed imploded the Southwest Conference, and then lo and behold, look what's happened to the Big 12. It's imploded. Why? Because of Texas greed.
Yes.
You know, and yeah, the officials know what's going on. They know who signs their paychecks. They know who it is. Texas, it's a joke. It's time to move on.
Yep. All right, man. Let's move on. Speaking of that, and going in and talk about another shocking story in the Big Ten, and it is not only that the Indiana Hoosiers are undefeated. This team is undefeated as well and playing some of its best football in quite a while. The Northwestern Wildcats.
You know, Northwestern, I don't know what it is. Excuse me. I had a yawn there. I didn't get the mic. You know, I don't know what it is with Northwestern, but every 5, 6, 7 years, they just come out of the woodwork and they just have a dynamic team.
Yep.
And they really make things happen. They make a run for about 2 years and they just kind of disappear. Northwestern is, proud program. You know, they used to be the laughing stock for ages. But now they're a team that is really making noise and good for them.
Right. By the way, Nebraska has entered the red zone 9 times in 2 games, and their touchdown rate is only 33%. That's not going to win you many ball games.
Nope. That won't win you hardly any ball games.
So hats off to Northwestern. That was a wonderful win for them, and they are undefeated. Okay, are you ready to talk about another SEC game?
Absolutely. I'm always want to talk SEC.
And this was supposed to be the SEC game of the week, and it did not turn out to be.
Not a shocker. Georgia just, Zamir White, that opening play and then the pick here at the beginning of the game, you thought, oh, man, they might blow the doors off here. But coming into this game, you knew that Ty Grantham's defense was going to give Stetson Bennett some problems. You knew that was going to happen. And then it sure enough did. Florida's offense, you can't stop it. You cannot. And, I was listening to the radio, and I can't remember who it was that said this, but Dan Mullen is probably the absolute best play caller in the SEC, if not the nation. Right. And if you don't think he's the best play caller in the nation, he's definitely in the top 5.
Right.
And I can't disagree with that statement at all.
Let me ask you this. Was this not a dirty, dirty play right there?
I don't think it was. I mean, yeah, he kind of lowered the shoulder and everything, but I wouldn't say.
Well, watch it again. I mean, he blew him up.
Yeah, he did. He did.
And Kyle Pitts, I'm sorry. By the way, his status for this weekend's game against Arkansas is still up in the air because of that.
Yeah, that's sad. There was something that was brought up years ago in the Big Ten. They talked about it during a broadcast during a football game. And I've always thought about this rule, and it makes sense to me. If a player hits a player with ill intent, it is ruled a dirty play, an unsportsmanlike conduct call.
Right.
That player should serve the suspension plus a game of however long the other guy's out. So if the guy missed 2 weeks, that player should be suspended for 3 games. He'd missed the 2 games if the other player was hurt and another game. I thought that would be a great rule. And then I've heard so many people say you can't punish a guy for 3 games for one play. I was like, but that would send a message and that would clean some of this up. I do not think this is a problem in college football. I do not. But is it a problem time to time? Yes. Yes, it is. So I remember a Georgia lineman taking a very uncalled, completely cheap shot against a Mississippi State player as an offensive lineman for Georgia who just ran down the field and rolled up on a D lineman well after the play. He got flagged for it and everything, and the Georgia player wrote a letter to the Mississippi State player. But with that being said, that doesn't change things. I know you get caught up in the moment. I know things in the heat of the moment happen, but if this does become a problem in college football, it needs to be addressed. But I don't think it's a problem right now.
Well, and by the way, would you also say right now that the seat may be actually getting a little bit warm under Kirby Smart? I agree with this because the last few games where they've had big-time opponents, their defense has been garbage.
Yeah. I think Kirby's a great coach. I think Kirby's a great recruiter. But let's call this what this is. Mark Richt got fired because he's not Nick Saban. Mark Richt got fired because he wasn't winning a national title. And if you look at Mark Richt and his career, it was kind of following just like Bobby Bowden, who he coached under for so many years. It took Coach Bowden, 28 years to win his first national title?
Yeah.
Took him a long time. And then, Georgia's like, we're going to fire Mark Richt because he can't win the national title. And Mark Richt averaged 10 wins a year over the previous 4 years when he was let go. 40 wins in the past 4 years. They let him go. And then they hire a guy that's doing the exact same job as Mark Richt. So I'm not going to be shocked if Georgia fans want to fire Kirby. I don't think
they do. They do. Trust me.
I don't think that's good.
I'm in a Facebook group, and I posed that question, and everybody was like, fire Kirby, fire Kirby, fire Kirby.
Well, here's the thing, Stephen. This is what I want to ask Georgia fans. Name me any team in the SEC besides Alabama that consistently performs on the national stage. LSU doesn't do it. Auburn doesn't do it. Florida doesn't do it. And find me someone on the national scene that does it every year. There's not anybody. You could put Clemson in that argument. You could put Bama in there, but Ohio State doesn't do it as well.
Right.
So what do Georgia fans expect? You need to step in line and figure it out yourself that guys like Mark Richt are phenomenal coaches. Guys like Kirby Smart are phenomenal coaches. There's a reason why Alabama does it. What Clemson has done with Dabo's have been amazing, but heaven forbid if Clemson loses another game, it's over for Clemson this year. It's over. So
I'm going to put you up full screen. I'll be right back.
Sure. So that's one thing I would send out to Georgia fans is you've got to get off your high horse. You fired a great man in Mark Richt for no reason. You hired him because his name's not Nick Saban. You've got to understand that Kirby Smart is not Nick Saban either. No program in the SEC does it year in and year out and is a national team that plays at a national championship level and wins the championship. LSU won last year, but look what LSU's doing now. Look at the year before LSU in 2018. It wasn't there. Look at Auburn since they've been to the national championship game. It's fallen off tremendously. You've got to understand, Georgia fans, that not everybody can do it, and only a select few can. There's no reason to strive to be that top team, but you shouldn't be firing coaches that can get you there.
Well, let me just go on ahead real quick before we get to our guest and go on ahead and do one more game, and then we will go to our very special guest today. But you actually were not able to watch this game because your son or somebody had a football game. So what did you think about Mississippi State versus Vandy?
Wow. Both teams were crippled tremendously due to injuries and COVID. Both teams almost had the bare minimum. So it was at the bottom of the barrel for both teams. I think they said Mississippi State dressed 54 players and 44 played. That's an extremely low number. I believe Vanderbilt had 55 players. I don't know how many played for Vanderbilt. I heard that number, but I forgot. But it was close to the same number. It's just kind of crazy to see what's happening. Seals, the quarterback, as you see right there on the highlights, I think he's going to be a very special quarterback in the SEC. I really do. He has not much to work with, and he is making things happen. I just hope that he doesn't get his confidence hurt too much this season as he's learning and growing. And that's a huge situation. What the SEC is known for doing is hurting quarterbacks and their confidence moving forward of playing them too early.
Yep. Well, man, let me go ahead and let the highlights finish out. But, man, Vandy had a chance, so many opportunities that they left on the field because Mississippi State forced 5 turnovers for Vandy. But we have something new here for you guys real quick. I want to play 3 interesting little sound bites from Mike Leach about the overall win. Now, the first one that you're going to hear is going to be his thoughts on the overall win versus Vandy. And I'm going to mute my mic so that it does not echo.
Offensively, I think that we grew a little, we got a little better. It was a pretty good win for a guy like Will Rogers, his first start. Actually, we probably had several guys that had their first start. I think we did have a lot of guys that had their very first start. We got to be a tougher team on offense. I think offensively, we as coaches have to find a way to generate toughness in our offensive players because right now I don't think they're very tough and pretty pleased and all that isn't quite getting it. So we're going to have to adjust some. But it was a great team win, and I'm very proud of our team, proud of our players.
All right. Well, then he was asked what the issue was. Basically, why Vandy all of a sudden came back, what adjustments they made. And this is what he had to say about their adjustments. And this is quite interesting.
Well, I have a lot of respect for Vanderbilt. They really didn't do anything. They just saw us was, lined up, and they pressured us some, and basically watched us take turns screwing up, playing timid, and sitting on the sideline with blank, wide-eyed faces. And I'm getting sick and tired of that.
Man, you gotta love Mike Leach, my God. And one final little thing. Somebody asked what kind of message that he wanted to send. Basically the question was simply, what would you tell the fans right now that say that you're not getting the job done? And let me just go ahead and say this was classic Mike Leach.
Well, I mean, every job that I've ever had, all I promised was to give my very best, and they've certainly gotten that. And so, but I get a kick out of, fans feel like they're upset about something. They ought to try it from the coaches and players standpoint. I talked about it on the radio show. It's like breakfast. The chicken's involved, but the pig's committed. Okay, so coaches and players, we're like the pigs. Okay, and but I certainly appreciate our fan support. There were cowbells. I thought we had a great crowd. I thought they did a great job as far as lifting our team at key times, inspiring us on all sides of the ball because there were key contributions on all 3 sides of the ball, and that was key. And then, those that aren't on board or impatient, maybe they can select another team, or maybe they can go coach their own team. And I think that, and then, you can evaluate how their team does and see how it all shakes out.
Classic Mike Leach there, my friend.
The chicken is involved, but the pig is committed. And that's true. The chicken lays an egg, and the chicken goes on about its day. But the pig, it's committed. It's given up a lot to get on that breakfast plate. So, the Pirate, there's going to be good times coming to Starkville. I just don't think it's going to be in 2020.
Yep. All right, man. Well, let's go on ahead without further ado and bring in our very special guest for the day. This guy actually played his college career out at UNLV, the Running Rebels. Is what they used to call them, and I'm pretty sure that they still do. And then he went on to play for the Tennessee Titans under Eddie George and the late Steve McNair. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring in my very special friend, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly, Ray Cheetany. Ray, how's it going, bud?
Good, man. You pronounced it perfect. That was
okay.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
That was perfect. But yeah, thanks for having me. And just want to let you guys know, Stingray's out here in Vegas. People know who you are, man. We love your rants. People really know who you are, and I got to tell you, I watch your video.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. Well, I really do appreciate that. But so go ahead and tell us what it was like for you playing with UNLV.
Well, it was a great experience. Just going back a little bit, I'm originally from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I went to Iowa Central Community College, about 2.5 hours from where I grew up in Cedar Rapids. And I went to this junior college called Iowa Central Community College, and it's ranked #1 in the country for junior college, 11 out of the last 12 years. We had 42 national championships since 2006. We had John Jones, Cain Velasquez from the UFC from there, just to name a few. It was an amazing experience because it allowed my family to move out west. My brother, with the help of some coaches from Iowa Central, connected me to UNLV. And, living in Las Vegas is great from a guy from Iowa. Nothing against Iowa, but it was a nice change. And then originally I committed to the Arkansas Razorbacks, and just talking about that a little bit, we ended up playing them in the Las Vegas Bowl, so it was a special thing. And going that way, I knew we could play with anyone from UNLV, so we ended up playing Ole Miss from the SEC. A lot of good memories. We played Iowa State, so just playing Arkansas and beating them was a great feeling. So it was great.
And real quick, to start off, we just showed the highlights of your 75-yard punt versus BYU.
Yep.
Walk us through that play and what your teammates and coaches were saying after that long boot.
Well, it was raining. It was cold. I grabbed one of my. I remember I grabbed my running back. I was like, hey, I'm gonna bomb this punt right here, and then. The up there in BYU and Utah, the air is a little thinner, so the ball goes an extra 10 yards. So,
right.
Yeah, I got a hold of it and I just saw it sail, and I'm like, wow, okay. So it was great. The crowd noise got a little louder down there. BYU's a pretty loud stadium, and there's about 70,000 there for the game. So the crowd noise kind of got me motivated, and I just let it rip.
Ray, I was going to ask you, you played with the legendary coach John Robinson, if I'm not mistaken. John is now with LSU as a senior advisor to Eddie O. Ed Orgeron. But what was it like to play for the legendary old man Robinson?
It was great. I mean, Robinson brought so much to UNLV. Right when he got to UNLV, he changed our uniforms, upgraded our stadium. Our stadium was outdated, so I think he put $20 million into that at the time. We had the best training table anyone could ask for. We'd go to the casinos and eat there. Lobster, prime rib. And then he brought people in like Joe Montana, Ronnie Lott, John Madden to our practices. And it was Keyshawn Johnson was at our game. So it was like these guys were just walking around hanging out with these guys. I'm like, wow. So he changed it right when he got to campus, and he did a really tremendous job. That's why you see the changes that we have now at UNLV. It's because of him.
I've always thought UNLV should be a special program that would easily draw in recruits from all over. What 18-year-old boy does not want to go to Las Vegas and hang out for his 4 years of college? Why is UNLV it's not one of those diamonds of the West or of college football just yet? Because I think one day it could be.
Yeah, that's a good question. The facilities we had, with our training. Our weight room wasn't top notch. Our stadium wasn't top notch. Our stadium was 20 minutes away from the strip. So now we have a new facility, a $42 million only football center that the Fertitta family helped donate that. They were the former owners of the UFC. And then we have our new $2 billion stadium, which the Raiders play at.
Mm-hmm.
And they do a really good job of making that a home field advantage for UNLV. I was at the stadium for the first time last week against Fresno State, and they do a tremendous job of making it a home field advantage. So that right there, stadium, facilities, new coach Arroyo's doing a great job. I mean, we're 0-3, but it's COVID, so this season doesn't count. So.
UNLV has a lot of fun and famous alumni. Who are some of the alums that you've come across over your years being associated with UNLV?
I'd have to say there's been quite a few. We used to have Suge Knight. Suge Knight would come to our practice. He used to play at UNLV, so he would pop in and out of our practices. Randall Cunningham,
yeah,
involved with UNLV football. Ickey Woods, and a funny Ickey Woods story was, during one of the games, he was just there hanging out, and I was talking to him, and I didn't know it was Ickey Woods until after the game. Somebody was like, "That's Ickey Woods." I'm like, "Really?" So I went to school with Sean Marion from the NBA.
Yeah.
Flo Rida was there when I was there. I think he was there for a year. So there's a lot of famous alumni in and out of UNLV. So it's a great school.
Quick, fun, personal question. While you were in school and you're out and about in Las Vegas, what celebs or any fun stories that you came across? Who did you bump into or see?
Celebrity. Well, I'm gonna tell you this. My best friend right now is Flavor Flav from Public Enemy. So I became very good friends with Flavor Flav, and I used to buy his tapes, his CDs, and I used to bootleg them too. Don't tell him that. But I ran into him. I had an event about 10 years ago. We just connected, and I think I met so many people through him. But just rolling out with Flavor Flav and his clock is just sometimes I'm like, is this really happening? But yeah, I have to say Flavor Flav is the one.
Well, let's go back to your playing days just for a second. What was it like to play in the Las Vegas Bowl and to beat Arkansas? And by the way, Heath, I don't know if you saw this or not, but check out who was coaching Arkansas at the time that Ray and UNLV beat them.
Yeah, Houston Dale Nutt, the Right Reverend.
Yep, yep, Houston. It was like I said, we played Ole Miss down in Oxford. And my senior year, we took them into overtime. Oxford's not an easy place to play, and we ended up losing them 43-40. So right there, I was like, we can play with anyone. Right. And then playing against Arkansas was special to me because I got recruited by Arkansas and actually committed to them. But then Houston Nutt came, and things changed, and he had his own recruit. So I was like, man, I can't wait. I was like, we ended up playing Arkansas. I was like, wow. And I remember before the game, some of the Razorbacks were talking trash, at one of our events, like, we're going to smash you guys. I'm like, wow. So playing them and beating them really bad was very humbling. So it was good. It was really good. So it was really
Ray, you were with the Titans. A big name here in the state of Mississippi is the late Steve McNair, Aaron McNair.
Yeah.
And I was in college at the same time Steve was. And, it was just crazy to see that a kid at Alcorn State was getting on the cover of Sports Illustrated and leading the highlights to every college football show on major network and ESPN. But you were teammates with Steve briefly. Do you have any fun Steve McNair stories for us?
I was at the Titans for a very, very a very long time. I was there for 4 months, but just my locker was very close to him, and he was very nice, so he was very welcoming, and he was always like taking care of the rookies. Hey, do you need anything? Always had a nice smile on his face. Always, had that Southern hospitality. And I really respected him just because of that. I'm some kid from out west, from UNLV and Iowa originally, and he just was, hey, you need anything? You have any questions? So that I remember him for that, and not judging anyone. You're not with the Titans for 10 years, but you're here. You're brand new. I'm going to show you what this is about. So I really respected him for that.
Here's a fun question with your time in Nashville. Do you still have a favorite restaurant in Nashville, a place that you remember going to your 4 months there?
Oh man, I can't remember the name of it. There was several downtown that we bar hopped, down there.
Oh yeah.
Everybody cruised up and down the Ave, but I remember there was some good fried chicken down there. So I can't remember the place. Yeah, that's some good places down there. I can't remember the specific names, but yeah, good memories though. Always good memories down there.
So, talking about college football, teams out west, who is someone to keep an eye on here west of the Mississippi?
I really like USC. I think USC. I think the coach is on the hot seat right now if he doesn't produce. I like their, Slovis, their quarterback. They got Drake London at wide receiver. Their offense is outstanding. So I think USC is going to be the shocker right now in the Pac-12.
What's the name to watch? Any Heisman hopefuls?
Again, Slovis. I think he had 4 games for 400 and more passing yards. So I think watch out for him. And he's only a sophomore too. And I think he had the highest percentage of completions last year. So I think he's the guy. I mean, he's going to be the sleeper for me and for the Heisman.
Well, what are you hearing since you actually live so close and you actually go back and forth quite often to LA because you were there when I was talking to you here a little bit earlier? What are you hearing around the Chip Kelly? Do you feel like that his job is on the hot seat this year, and especially with them losing to Colorado this past weekend?
Yeah, I think last 2 years he's 7-17, I believe, and now 7-18. I think you got to give him a couple more years to see what he can do. And plus this year, like I said, I don't think this year should count because of COVID, because it's so off. COVID it's messed so many things up, and it's a tragedy. A lot of these senior players, but yeah, give him a couple more years, see what he does, and maybe he can turn it around. It's not going to happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Also, I thought we were going back and forth. That's why I paused. Sorry, Heath. I'm sorry.
I asked 2 questions in a row. That's why I
right.
waited, Stephen.
Okay, good. Okay. What are you also hearing about Kevin Sumlin down there? Now, of course, they have not played a game yet down at Arizona, but Kevin Sumlin did not have the best go of it at Texas A&M, and now he's not having the best of it down there at Arizona either. I think this is going to be the make it or break it year for Kevin Sumlin down there.
Yeah, well, 2008 he was 5-7, 4-8 last year, I believe. Again, though, you got to give him a little more time. And Arizona's it's usually kind of in the middle of the Pac-12 or upper sometimes, but give him a couple more years, see what he can do. I think he has a good reputation down there, so I don't know who else they could get down there in Arizona.
Right.
I definitely give him a couple more years.
Ray, what's a team? We talked about UNLV. I've always wondered why UNLV hadn't been a big team as far as recruits and drawing guys in, since Las Vegas is such a fun place, and especially 18-year-old boys would love it. But what's another school out west that you just have always kind of wondered why they're not on the big-time stage and doing it at a big-time level? It could be UCLA. I mean, we can name tons of people, but what's one school that's always stood out to you that you always thought they underachieved?
I would have to say, let's see, that's a good question. Maybe Arizona State. You're right in the heart of Phoenix, and have all that recruiting there, and it's different. The feeling for the Pac-12 is a little different than, from where the Big Ten region where I'm from. I'm from the Big Ten, Big 12. You guys are from the SEC. It's like the tailgating's different. People come to the game late. People are at the beach where where we're from. This is all we have. So I'm going to say Arizona State, but and another thing that Arizona State did too is they shrunk their stadium, which was kind of odd. Like other schools are building bigger stadiums, they shrunk their stadium so they could fit more, so it looks like it's full. So I think, I would have to say Arizona State just because of, the camp. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but the stadium's right on campus. It's a good atmosphere when it is full. So I think Arizona State, their coach too now is I think he's going to be a game changer for Arizona State.
And finally, who do you ultimately see winning the Pac-12? Oregon's a pretty decent team out there, and USC.
I'm going to have to say USC because, again, I think their coach is on the hot seat. They got the wide receivers. They got the quarterback, who I think is going to be a runner for the Heisman. And USC, as you guys know, their tradition, the alumni want to see them win. And I saw them play against Iowa last year live in the Holiday Bowl. And the defense and offensive line was the big difference there. And I think they're rebuilding this year with their getting some big monsters up there to compete with these other schools. But I think USC's the one.
I got you. Well, man, thank you for your time. And before we let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug or give a shout out to, or tell the people how they can find you on social media?
Yeah, just I'm big on Instagram. It's just my name at Ray Cheetany, and on Twitter. And then I appreciate you guys, because I'm going to tell you what, man, your guys' show I watch every week, and I've been sending you guys a link to everyone, and they, your rants are hilarious, Stingray, from back.
Thank you.
If I'm ever in a bad mood, man, I put the Stingray rant on, and I just watch it. I watched it this morning, the one with the Auburn, and you got the cowbell and with the cow. I mean, that was the best one ever. But you guys keep doing what you're doing, and I want you guys to come out west to a game to UNLV.
Yeah, man. Let this COVID stuff get out of the way, and we'll be more than happy to come out there to Vegas.
Hey, forget the COVID stuff. Send the jet now, and I'll jump on.
Yes.
You guys come out. I'd love to show you guys around and just show you guys how Vegas is.
I'd love to.
All right, man. Well, thank you for your time, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Take care, Ray.
Man, I got to tell you what, that was rather interesting. Some fun stories there.
Yeah, Ray was kind of fun there. To play for the legendary coach John Robinson, that's got to be a huge, huge thing. I mean, we know about Bear Bryant. Probably the second best coach during Bear Bryant's day was John Robinson. Of course, John Robinson made the jump from college football to the NFL, and he took over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Well, let me rephrase that. He started the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was the first coach there, and they were Tampa Bay, and it was crazy to think about what Tampa Bay was back then, and but USC they were moving back in the day with John Robinson. He dominated the 70s.
Yes.
So just a wealth of knowledge from John Robinson, and a lot of people didn't know that John Robinson is at LSU now.
Yes.
He's senior advisor to Ed Orgeron. So when Ed Orgeron wants to know something, that's who he's talking to, is John Robinson. So.
Well, man, that's exciting. Well, let's go ahead and get back to some of the games from this past weekend. And we're going to start with another Big 12 game. And, man, I got to tell you what, this season has been so crazy for the Wildcats of Kansas State.
Yeah. K-State, we've talked about them on the show multiple times. Skylar Thompson and the Wildcats, and just a fun team to watch. They really are. But sometimes they can't get out of their own way. But I've been liking what K-State has been doing. But, Stephen, that game Saturday, what did you think about it?
Well, I'm showing you all the good highlights of the quarterback there to show you actually they went up 12-0, and then this happened. He fumbles the ball right into the defender's lap, and he returns it for a touchdown, and ultimately that sealed the game for Oklahoma State right there. That was a tough loss for Kansas State, and I tell you what, man, Oklahoma State sitting right there quietly with only one loss to Texas.
Yeah, I think that Texas loss is going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt them tremendously.
Right.
I think at the end of the year that Texas loss will be considered a bad loss. You look at a team like A&M. Their losses to Alabama. So what are you going to weigh if there's a team knocking on the door trying to get in the playoff or a New Year's Six bowl? Well, who did Who did Oklahoma State lose to? They lost to a so-so Texas team compared to A&M, who lost to the number one team in the country. So,
yeah, I agree. Hey, real quick, I'm going to pull you up full screen. Something just popped up on my phone, and let me see if it's breaking news, and I will come right back.
sure. This weekend, some games coming up, but the fun thought about SEC football and all college football is, we get 2 extra weeks of football here after the season. So, we look forward to the Thanksgiving Day rivalries to wrap up the season, whether it be the Egg Bowl, the Iron Bowl, the Border War. There's so many great games. But, this year it's going to feel a little odd as we look into seeing 2 more regular season games in December of all things. So maybe we can get some snow football, Stephen, here in the SEC. I know it's rare that we ever get snow in the South, but sometimes it does snow in the December month. So it would be fun to get a game of snow in a regular season SEC football game.
This comes from Adam Rittenberg of ESPN. Yeah. There is a sense of caution. The sense of optimism is growing at Cal for their game versus Arizona State. They are planning on playing, and hopefully Sunday could also be a possibility of them playing Cal versus Arizona State.
I'm up for it.
So that is the breaking news right now, is that the Cal-Arizona State game is still on, and they're possibly going to play that on Sunday rather than Saturday. So that's a little interesting right there. All right, let's go ahead and go to another game that was this past weekend, and South Carolina versus Texas A&M, and there really wasn't that much to talk about in this game. Were you able to catch any of the highlights?
Yeah, I caught most of the fourth quarter of this game, third and fourth quarter. I might have been the only person watching in the Southeast in the fourth quarter. Yeah, yikes. South Carolina's been trying to put it together. It looked promising at the beginning of the season with Bobo's offensive coordinator and Colin Hill, the quarterback transfer from Colorado State. Right now, people in South Carolina are wondering if Colin Hill should even be playing quarterback there ever again, and is Bobo really the right guy? Folks, let me tell you, Texas A&M, they've got a legit team. That's a good defense for Texas A&M. That's not a shabby team whatsoever. Ask Dan Mullen. I mean, they didn't really stop Dan Mullen, but they stood toe-to-toe with him and, beat him. The crazy thing about South Carolina is that where's Muschamp taking you? Where's Willie Muschamp going to take you this year, next year, any year? Is he a guy that's going to challenge Dabo? I think we know the answer to that. Will Muschamp is an excellent coach, but he's not in the same class as Dabo Swinney. And will South Carolina be able to get somebody like that? I know I've heard the rumors, just like you have heard the rumors. Hugh Freeze, South Carolina, let's make this happen. Stephen and I talk about it at the beginning of the show. There's going to be a lot of things going on here at the end of the season. Or if it doesn't happen this season, next season in 2021, where there'll be a lot of jobs opening up. Tennessee could open up. South Carolina could open up. Georgia could open up. Ole Miss could open up due to Lane Kiffin moving on to another job. There's a lot of things. LSU could open up. Auburn could open up. There's a lot of things going on. So I don't know if Willie Muschamp holds on to things, but that was just ugly the other night. It was just pure ugliness. And props to A&M doing what they did. They put away a so-so to a bad team, and they put them away early, and it was over.
And we actually have a soundbite, just like we did earlier with Mike Leach. We have a soundbite from Will Muschamp, and he is not happy, to say the least. This is what he said. me just a second here. This is what he said following the loss to South Carolina. He was asked about the fans, should they be upset, and this is what he had to say.
I hope they're pissed off, and that's fine. And in the last two performances, I don't think there's any doubt they should be disappointed with how we played and performed and how we coached. We're going to continue to work, and we've had success here. And, our first 3 years as a tenure, we had one more games than any other coach did in here, and we plan on continuing to have success here. And I think we've recruited well. I think we've got good players in our program. I'm disappointed with our last two outings.
And, dude, how could you not be? Because South Carolina only managed 150 yards in its worst offensive output in 25 years.
It was bad. It was bad, Stephen. It was.
And I actually thought going into this game, that South Carolina and Coach Boone might actually could make a statement in this game. No.
Yeah, they would have to jump out early and get the mo going, get the juice on their side. Yeah, no. A&M is starting to really hit stride. A&M is hitting stride quietly.
Yes.
That's not a knock on A&M. It's just no one in the country is talking about A&M.
I know.
Right now, if they're talking about the SEC, they're talking about, of course, Bama. They're talking a little bit about Florida. They're talking about how Georgia's not getting it done, and then that's all they're really talking about when it comes to the SEC. And so A&M's kind of lying there in the weeds. So maybe, just maybe, A&M takes off. But as far as South Carolina, heaven forbid if Clemson does make the playoff this year and wins another national championship, what do you do as a South Carolina fan? I mean, what do you do? Because your in-state rival has dominated the rivalry since Dabo's been there. They're winning national championships. They're recruiting at an extreme high level. And here's South Carolina just kind of hanging out, So, yeah, I don't know.
Sorry, man. I had somebody call me. I apologize. I've got to turn my phone off, dadgummit. All right. Are you ready to talk about what was ultimately the game of the year so far last weekend, man? I got to tell you, I did not see the gold helmets winning this football game. What about you?
I thought they had a chance. When Trevor Lawrence said he was going down, I was like, oh, here it is. Here's the crazy 2020 showing its head again. The best player in college football not going to be there. The team leader, the heartbeat, the soul of Clemson, not going to be there. I knew if it was going to be a close game, Clemson would kind of be reeling and searching, knowing that Trevor Lawrence was not going to bail them out.
Right.
Didn't completely shock me. I kind of expected Notre Dame to make this a close game. I wasn't going to be shocked if Clemson won it just by a little or last second or by a lot. I wouldn't have been shocked. But, you see the breaks that Notre Dame got, especially that play right there.
With ATN. Yeah, that's the second game in a row that he has fumbled and it was returned for a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, turnovers, they're bad. You don't want them. You don't want them around. Notre Dame's a good team. Brian Kelly's an excellent coach. I don't know what else to say. I mean, they're awesome.
Well, I know, but they really hadn't shown up in big-time games other than this game right here, and that was a really big win for them. But right here, we will get to the highlights here in just a second, but I do want to say this to all the Corona bros out there. They were really pissed off about this large crowd on the field. I got to be honest with you, Heath. I was actually glad to see it, just simply because it added a little bit of normalcy back to college football in a year that we need some normalcy with all this pandemic.
Stop me if you heard this before. College kids don't care.
Yeah.
I remember college kids don't care. They just don't care. They're not social distancing. They're not wearing their mask unless they have to. The college kids don't care. This virus is not really affecting them. It's an extreme minority that are being affected by it. I'm not trying to make light of the situation. I'm not trying to make light of this. I'm not trying to put down the Corona bros.
Right.
But I'm with you, Stephen. It was great to see students rush the field. It was crazy. We need college football to get back to normal.
Yes.
We need America and our country to get back to normal. Does that mean we all need to wear a mask? Some people say yes. Some people say no. I'll let you decide that for yourself.
Right.
And no, we're not taking the show there.
No.
But, it's fun when we see an underdog win. It's fun when students rush the field. It's fun when they celebrate together. It brings a smile to everyone's face. And when you see everybody on the same page, cheering, pulling for the same outcome, and they achieve it, it's fun. Doesn't matter if it's sports or not. It's fun to see that. And we got to see that with Notre Dame. So to all the Irish students, thank you. And can Notre Dame keep it up? Yeah, I don't know.
I know. I was about to get to that. Notre Dame's first win versus number one at home since 1993. Now, here's a little nugget for you. After they beat number one at home in 93, they lost on the next week to who?
All right, the 93, I think they beat Florida State. I think that's the number one team that they beat in 93. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
All right, give me a second. I remember when this happened. Gosh, I was a senior in high school when this went down. They lost the next week to, Stephen, I don't know.
Boston College.
Wow.
Now.
That was my next guess. I was going to say Boston College next.
Who does Notre Dame face Saturday at BC? Could it happen again?
Wow. Is Doug Flutie going to show up with a bowl of Flutie Flakes?
I have no clue.
I would love to see Doug Flutie. Anytime. It's always fun to see Doug Flutie, no matter if it's those Nissan Heisman commercials or whatever. But I think I'll watch that game this weekend or keep an eye on it just because of that. It's 2020. It's not 1993.
Right.
2020. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun.
Let me also go on ahead and get to our last game here. And I'm going to pull you up full screen real quick because I've got to go and grab the audio because I have a locker room situation from the Arkansas win that I would like to play. So I'm going to get it ready and I will be right back. But going ahead and talk about the Arkansas-Tennessee game for us.
Well, Tennessee, I've picked on Tennessee a little bit for a while, but not a long while. But Tennessee has just been streaky one way or the other. And, man, it is not looking good for the Vols. I thought Arkansas had a great chance coming into this game. I thought Tennessee would kind of figure some things out and kind of take advantage of things. But lo and behold, the Razorbacks and Sammy Pittman, who is going to be SEC Coach of the Year, they just keep finding ways to win, making things happen on both sides of the ball. How can you not like Arkansas and this Arkansas team? Tennessee, Jeremy Pruitt, I don't know if that's the answer anymore. Jeremy Pruitt was kind of your fifth or sixth choice anyway. Tennessee did have Mullen hired, and then the Florida job opened up, and Mullen took Florida over Tennessee. And then Tennessee was kind of reeling, and other people turned them down. And then there was Schiano, and he said no. And then there was Mike Leach and the drama on that. And then the AD gets fired because he can't make the right hire. Then why Tennessee brought back Philip Fulmer, I still don't understand and get. I don't know if Philip Fulmer – Would Stephen, here's a question. Would Philip Farmer be an AD at any SEC school or any school in America other than Tennessee?
No, I don't think so.
Then why is he the AD at Tennessee?
Because they love him because they took him to the national championship.
Yeah, I don't think that's an requirement to be an athletic director at any program.
No.
I mean, Larry Coker. I mean, is he going to become an AD at Miami because he took him to a national championship? No.
I have no clue.
So I just don't understand the thought process there at Tennessee. Tennessee leadership, from the president, from the athletic department, it's just been in shambles for a decade plus now. I would say about 12 years. It's just been in shambles up there. Coach Delmonico, the baseball coach at Tennessee, he took him to Omaha. Well, he got fired because the new AD's best friend coached baseball, and he wanted him there on staff. Tennessee baseball has not recovered at all since that moment. And then you look at basketball, and it's unfortunate what happened to Pat Summitt and everything, but they can't get things right. There's never going to be another Pat Summitt. They need to figure that out at Tennessee. Tennessee does not want to spend the money to be a national prominence team anymore.
Right.
In women's basketball and football. What's the goal here? Because Jeremy Pruitt was like your 8th or 9th selection as far as a coach. Why are we doing long-term contracts with 8th or 9th coaches from a coach that couldn't get it done himself?
I know.
Nothing's making sense at Tennessee.
Well, let me go on ahead and play this highlight, and I'm going to, not the highlight, let me go ahead and play this soundbite from Coach Pittman in the locker room, and what I'm going to do to ensure there's no backdrop or echo, I'm going to mute both of our mics.
Okay.
So it can sound really good out there for our.
Nothing. 13-0. What's the end of the game score? 20. That was one hell of a game, and especially one hell of a second. Man, y'all just beat Tennessee, man. Okay. Man, that's not cold up. I'm getting ready to. You know what we're going to do, though? We got to quickly call the Hogs for the race back. Pittsburgh Razorbacks! Turn that!
And man, we want to thank Arkansas and Arkansas football on Twitter for allowing us to use that. Hats off to them. That was an amazing win for that program.
It was a huge win. It's not going to be a milestone win that people are going to look back and remember, but Sam Pittman is stacking up wins. And I know Arkansas fans do not consider the Auburn game a loss. They count that as a win and not a loss, although the record says differently. But, I mean, look at what Sam Pittman is doing. I mean, Stephen, it's just kind of simply amazing that, you know, we didn't see them winning hardly any games this year. I remember some people were like, oh, we should put Arkansas and Vanderbilt the first game of the year to see who's going to win a game this year.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah, I was the one who said that.
Yeah. Look what's going on, man. You know, they had the nation's longest losing streak, or should I say the SEC longest losing streak. And then they break that in Starkville, and then they just keep winning. Should have had the game won at Auburn. You know, they beat Tennessee. They just keep winning. And, yeah. Stephen, it's not by luck. They're not winning by fluke plays. They're not winning by – they're beating other teams. They're not flashy. They're not overly exciting, but they're fun to watch because you can tell they play for each other. They're rallying around each other. They're playing for one thing, you know. And so Sammy Pittman, he gets all the credit. You can tell they love Sammy Pittman.
Yes.
You know, I'm starting to love Sammy Pittman. It's just a fun team to watch. And, you know, Sam Pittman's never going to win a flashy contest. He's not going to be picked class favorites, you know, among SEC coaches. But Sammy Pittman gets it done. I know everyone made fun of the yes, sir, you know, that Sammy Pittman always done. But give props to Arkansas. They're making it. They're making it happen. They're doing it upright.
And Tennessee was outscored 24-0 in the third quarter. That was one of the worst third quarter performances by Tennessee in a while. So hats off to Arkansas. And, man, I tell you what, that was a pretty exciting weekend of college football last weekend.
Yeah, it was. And it's fun to see. It's fun to see games that one team should probably win, but the other team does. It's fun to see that again, Stephen. I mean, 2020 has been kind of crazy, but to see an SEC team grow is kind of fun. And let the haters deny this, but it's true. We enjoy watching the car wrecks in SEC football. I think we're seeing Jeremy Pruitt starting to slide off the road here. It's tumbling off the road. So a car wreck's about to happen in Knoxville. We see it coming with Jeremy Pruitt in Tennessee. I don't think he can turn this around.
And could be also over there in Athens. You never know.
I'm not there yet, but they're going kind of fast. They're not out of control yet, but they're going fast.
Well, man, I think that's going to do it for this edition of the Stingray Show. Now, are you ready to tell our viewers who we actually have on the show tomorrow? And real quick, before I do so, I'm going to roll this video to actually show who we have on the show tomorrow. Give me just a second. I apologize.
1 second, 2 second, 3 second.
This is who we have on the show tomorrow. I am so excited. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, the Brock Heward is joining us tomorrow on the Stingray Show. We cannot be any more excited.
You know, we sat down with Brock earlier and did a great interview. He tells a wonderful Peyton Manning story. Then he tells a Manning family story. Brock had some great stories. I was shocked to know a couple of things about Brock that I did not know, and you'll get to see that tomorrow as Brock shares a lot of incredible things. We talk a lot of college football with him. He tells us some things about his favorite SEC stops and tailgating and pregame and everything. So Brock has a lot of SEC fun stories. You know, Brock called some games with SEC Network. He called some games with ESPN. He's now with Fox. He's calling college and NFL football with Fox. Matter of fact, you can catch Brock this weekend with the Jacksonville Green Bay game.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Brock gave us some of his time, and he will hopefully be returning to the show soon. Brock was great to have on.
And also tomorrow, we're having a former Mississippi State grad, someone close to you as well. He is a writer for Sports Illustrated, Ross Dillinger. I hope I said that correctly.
Dillinger, yeah.
Dillinger. But he is coming on the show as well to give us all the updates on the games that have been postponed and to talk about some other college football as well.
Yeah, tomorrow's going to be a fun show. A former NFL quarterback, SI writer. What could go wrong, right? There's a lot
we're going to be right back here at 1 o'clock tomorrow, correct?
That's right. 1 o'clock tomorrow.
All right, guys. Well, we hope you enjoy your college football tonight. We actually have one game tonight, and it is going to be Boise State versus Colorado State. So kick back, relax, enjoy that football game. We also have an NFL game tonight, and then come right back here on social media tomorrow and watch Brock Heward and Ross Dillinger only on the Stingray Show.
The Dogs and Stingray are coming for you.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feinbaum. Stingray here, and I'm about to shoot the bull with you like all the Auburn students do down at Auburn. Worst defense ever!
So without further ado, here is the biggest Alabama going for the field goal. The kick is up. It is away. It is no good. Chris Davis bringing it out of the end zone. Oh, he's got blockers. Chris Davis up the sideline. Here he goes.
Here we go, guys. Dobbs back to pass. Launching the ball. Jennings, he's got it. Jennings, he's got it. Touchdown, Tennessee. They shocked the Dogs in Sanford Stadium. Are you kidding?